Hi everyone, this is Amynah, and today we will be reading a book about the life cycle of a honeybee. What is a honeybee? A honeybee is an insect. Insects are invertebrates, or animals with no backbones. Instead, they have hard coverings called exoskeletons on the outsides of their bodies. Unlike many other insects, honeybees are social. They live in colonies or groups. Each colony of honeybee builds a hive in which to live. Types of honeybees. There are three types of honeybees: workers, drones, and queens. Worker bees are females. They're the smallest honeybees. Workers have many jobs. They build, clean, and protect the hive, care for young bees, and groom or clean the queen. Workers also collect pollen and nectar outside the hive, which they then make into food for the entire colony. Drones are male honeybees. They spend most of their time inside the hive, but they do not work. Their only job is to mate or join together with the queen to make babies. Only one queen lives in each colony. She is the largest honeybee. The queen lays all the eggs from which new honeybees will hatch. Busy body. A honeybee's body is made up of three sections: a head, a thorax or midsection, and an abdomen or lower body. Each section has many important parts. The different body parts of a honeybee have special functions or jobs. Look at the diagram below to learn how a honeybee's body works. A honeybee has 5 eyes. There are 3 small eyes at the front of its head and 2 large compound eyes, one on either side of its head. A pair of antennae or antennas on a honeybee's head are used to smell, feel, and send messages to other honeybees. The proboscis is a tube that the honeybee uses to suck nectar from flowers. A honeybee has 3 pairs of legs. The front pair is used for grooming the head and collecting pollen. The middle pair of legs is used to clean pollen off the other legs. Bee family tree. Honeybees belong to a group of insects called Hymenoptera. Wow, that's a tricky word, which includes ants, wasps, and other bees. All these insects have wings that are thin enough to see through. As a honeybee flies, its wings move rapidly. Honeybees can fly as fast as 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. Sting operation. Female honeybees have stingers that they use for protection. They poke the stingers into other animals and pump in venom or poison. Workers can use their stingers only once. When a worker flies away, its stinger tears away from its body. Workers die shortly after stinging, but a queen stinger never comes off after stinging. Her stinger is also an ovipositor, or a tube she uses to lay eggs. Where do honeybees live? A honeybee is a busy place. A honeybee hive is a busy place. It is very well built to meet all the needs of the colony. Each hive is a nest, a home, and a food factory all in once. Making beeswax. Hives are made from beeswax, which is a substance that honeybees produce with their bodies. Workers shed the wax in flakes. They soften the flakes with saliva and shape the wax using their front legs and mandibles or mouth parts. Beat for heat. The workers beat their wings as they work. Heat from their moving muscles warms the air in the hive. Wax is easy to shape at a high temperature. The workers keep the hive at an ideal temperature, about 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius. Tough cell. Once the wax is prepared, the workers get busy. They build the wax in a hexagonal or 6-sided cells. This shape makes the cells strong enough to support up to 25 times their own weight. There are about 100,000 cells in one hive. They are tightly packed together to form a comb or sheet of cells. The cells are placed side by side and back to back so that no space is wasted between them. In the hive. The cells in a hive have different uses. The cells near the center of the hive are used to raise young honeybees. Cells around the center cells store food. Day and night, thousands of workers scurry over the many cells in the hive to make sure that every job is being done. What is a life cycle? All animals go through a set of changes called a life cycle. First, they are born or they hatch from eggs. Then they grow and change into adults. As adults, animals can make babies. When a baby is born, a new life cycle begins. Here for a short time. An animal's life cycle is not the same as its lifespan. A lifespan is the length of time an animal is alive. The three types of honeybees have different lifespans, and honeybees born in the spring have a shorter lifespan than those born in the fall. Workers live between 20 and 340 days, depending on when they are born. Drones live between 20 and 90 days. Queens live longer than drones and workers. They may live as long as to 4 or 5 years, no matter what time of the year they are born. From egg to adult. Honeybees begin their life cycle in eggs. Larvae or larvas hatch from the eggs. The larva soon begins their metamorphosis or total body change. They become pupae or pupas. Metamorphosis is complete when the pupae becomes adults. Adult honeybees are mature or fully developed. The length of time it takes to complete these stages is different for each type of honeybee. It takes a worker about 20 days to complete its life cycle. A drone takes up 24 days. A queen's life cycle lasts only about 15 days. When the queen lays eggs, a new life cycle begins with each egg. The perfect place. All the eggs in a hive are laid by the queen of the colony. There are always many eggs in a hive because the queen lays up to 1,500 eggs per day. Each day she searches the hive for empty brood cells or cells in which she can lay eggs. She uses only cells that have been thoroughly cleaned by the workers. The queen lays a single egg inside each brood cell. The egg is attached to the cell wall with a sticky substance called mucus. Inside the egg is a tiny honeybee embryo and a yolk. The yolk is the food that the embryo will eat. Free at last. After 3 days, the egg hatches. The new honeybee larva does not break out of its egg membrane or soft shell as other animal babies do. Instead, the egg membrane dissolves or slowly breaks down into liquid. The newly hatched larva looks very similar to the egg in shape, size, and color. Little larvae. Honeybee larvae have no eyes, wings, legs, or antennae because they do not yet need these parts. The larva stage of the life cycle is only about one thing: eating. The little larva eats as much as they can in order to grow bigger. If they do not eat the proper types and amounts of food, they may become small adults or have shorter than normal lifespans. Chow down. Tiny white larvae feed constantly on food that is brought by workers called nurse bees. The nurse bees feed larvae a mixture called brood food. It contains substances from the workers' bodies as well as water and honey, which only honeybees make. As the larva gets older, they may also feed on bee bread, a mixture of honey and pollen that has been prepared as food. Each larva receives hundreds of small meals a day from the nurse bees. Food fit for a queen. Queen larva eats a special type of brood food called royal jelly. This substance has more honey than other types of brood food. The queen is fed royal jelly and a lot of it throughout her entire life cycle. Skin type. The larvae feed and grow constantly for several days, but their skins do not grow with their bodies. The larvae must molt or shed their skin so that their bodies will have enough room to grow bigger. When a larva has molted 4 times, workers create a wax cap or cover over its cell and seal it shut. After its cell has been capped, the larva stretches out of its body and spins a cocoon or silk case around itself. The larva spends the next few days inside a cocoon where it begins its metamorphosis. To be a bee. While in the cocoon, the honeybee changes from a larva to a pupa. The new pupa's body is almost fully developed except for its wings. Its color grows darker and its insides changes. The pupa then completes the 5th and final molt of its life cycle. This last molt changes it into an adult honeybee. Bursting out. The new adult's body is soft, so the honeybee must wait in its capped cell for several hours while its body hardens. When the honeybee is ready, it carefully chews the edge of the wax cap to separate it from the cell wall. The workers then collect the wax caps and reuse them elsewhere in the hive. Out in the open. When a honeybee finally struggles out of its cell, it stretches out its antennae and wings and waits for the hairs on its body to dry. Workers then bring food to the young adult and begin grooming it. Fully grown. The new adult honeybee may look very different than they did as larvae, but they're still very hungry. Workers, drones, and queens all need plenty of food in their first day as adults. Their bodies look fully grown, but their insides continue to develop for the next few days. In order to be healthy adults, workers eat pollen and honey, drones eat brood food, and a queen continues to eat royal jelly. A successful colony needs healthy adults. Working for a living. Healthy adult queens and drones ensure that many eggs are laid. Most eggs develop into workers. Workers run the hive. Their jobs change as they get older, so workers in all stages of development are necessary to the hive. In the first day of her life, a worker cleans cells and helps keep the brood cells warm. She then becomes a nurse bee. Her job is to help feed larvae. After that, she helps build the hive and carry food and wax wherever it is needed. Next, she becomes a guard bee. Guard bee protects the entrance to the hive. The last day of the worker's life are spent as a field bee. Field bees Field bees leave the hive to gather nectar and pollen. They then bring the nectar and pollen back to the hive to be made into food for the entire colony. Mating. When the queen is mature, she prepares to mate with a drone. Mature drones produce a fluid called sperm in their bodies. Sperm is used for reproduction or making babies. It fertilizes the eggs that are inside the queen's body. On the move. When the queen is ready to mate, she leaves the hive and flies to a mating area chosen by drones. Here, she may mate with 15 to 20 drones before she returns to the hive. She stores their sperm in her body, so she will not need to mate again for the rest of her life. The drones do not live long after they have mated. Eggs for workers and drones. The queen returns to the hive after mating and immediately begins laying eggs. Fertilized eggs or eggs that once have contact with sperm hatch into workers or queens. Unfertilized eggs are eggs that have never come into contact with the sperm of the drones. These eggs hatch into drones. A new hive. Most hives have one queen and enough room for only a certain number of honeybees. When the hives become too crowded, many of the honeybees prepare to swarm or leave the hive as a group. Some of the workers build special queen brood cells, which are larger than regular brood cells. They feed the larvae royal jelly. And they're off. When the developing queens are almost ready to leave their brood cells, the colony's old queen flies away. She's followed by thousands of workers. The honeybees that stay in the hive wait for the first developing queen to crawl out of her cell. She becomes the colony's new queen. Out in the open. The swarming honeybees set out to find a new home. First, they gather on a large object, such as a tree branch. A few workers called scout bees begin searching for a good nest site or spot for the new hive. They may spend hours or even days trying to find a spot that is safely out of sight, such as a hollow tree or a crack in the wall. When the scout bees have found a good site, they return to the swarm and do a dance to tell the colony where to find it. As soon as the swarm reaches the new nest site, the honeybees begin building a hive. Honeybee feasts. Workers have to find a lot of food in order to feed the whole colony. Excuse me. They make many kinds of food, but they're most famous for their honey. Only honeybees can use nectar from flowers to make honey. How do they do it? Finding nectar. Workers cooperate or work together to locate food. When one worker finds a good food source, it uses its proboscis to reach inside the flower and suck out the flower's nectar. The honeybee then returns to the hive to let the other workers know where to find the food. Shake it up. Honeybees use movement to communicate with the rest of the colony. When field bees return to the hive after searching for food, they use special movements to tell other workers where the food can be found. They do a round dance to show the nectar it's close by. When the nectar is far away, field bees do a waggle dance to describe the distance to the nectar and the direction in which it can be found. Good partners. Honeybees eat pollen to get protein. Field bees collect pollen from flowers. They store it in pollen baskets on their legs. When the baskets are full, the field bees return to the hive and store the pollen in food cells. Extra pollen often sticks to their body, hair, and antennae. This pollen is carried to the other plants as honeybee visits. Pollen movement is important because many plants need pollen from other plants of their species in order to reproduce. Honeybees pollinate plants by carrying grains of pollen from one plant to another. The season ends. When winter comes, the air is too cold for honeybees. They must spend the coldest months inside their hives. They cannot leave the hive to collect food. The workers prepare for winter by making plenty of extra food. The queen lays fewer eggs at this time, so there is room to store the food, keeping out the cold. As the temperature outside the hive drops, workers seal up any cracks in the hive. They use sticky plant substances called gums to seal every spot that might let in cold air. When the hive has been sealed, the workers huddle together. They start shaking their wing muscles, causing their bodies to give off heat. The heat warms the hive. The workers keep moving their wings until spring, when the air grows warm again. And this brings us to the end of this informative book. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. I will see you again very soon with the life cycle of another animal. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.